if you didn't have the good fortune to go to the diversity fair last week, that was a little segment you just saw. It was very nice. Now, in moving on with our show today, we're celebrating, or I don't know if celebrating is the right word, but we're remembering William Shakespeare, who died on May 2nd, 1616. And so this is the 400th anniversary this year, 2016. And as you know, there have been many shows about him, etc., on TV. He was born in 1564 in Stratford-upon-Avon, and his mother's name was Mary, his father John. We don't have any record of his school attendance, but it was thought that he likely attended the King's New School there in Stratford. He married Anne Hathaway on November 28th in 1582, and they had 3 children. Susanna, born in 1583, and just a little scandalous tidbit, she was pregnant when they got married. And then they had twins, Judith and Hamnet, born in 1585. Now, Hamnet, the only boy, died in 1586, so he never had a male heir, and in those days, you know, male heirs were the big deal. One Elizabethan writer named Robert Greene gave a moniker to William Shakespeare and called him an upstart crow. Well, that crow went on to, in 1594, he became a founding member of the Lord Chamberlain's Men, which sought protection and preferment from aristocrats who were willing to protect theater people, who the city officials in London, for instance, were always trying to curtail the theater people and their activities. Shakespeare, as you know, wrote a plethora of plays for the London stage, and audience has been enjoying them ever since. For 400 years, we've been enjoying his plays. In 1598, there was a publication that went out for about 15 of his plays were in that publication, but we know there were many more. The first full or so-called complete list of his plays was in the early 1600s. During that time, he made a shift from writing comedies and romances, or romantic comedies, and history. He switched over to tragedies. And that's when we got the plays like Hamlet and Othello, Macbeth, King Lear, Antony and Cleopatra. Those are all part of his tragedies. As I said, he died in May of 1616. And by the way, if any of you listening saw the Green Spring Players one-act plays this last spring, the play entitled Second Best Bed, which was based on a true story, it told the story of the last will and testament of William Shakespeare and to whom he left his fortune. Okay, we're going to take some time now to listen to some excerpts from 3 of his most famous plays. And I guess I'm going to tell them quickly. As You Like It, which he wrote in 1599, also in 1599, Romeo and Juliet, and then in 1594, actually before those other plays, Julius Caesar, one of his history renditions. So listen a few minutes and hear some of these wonderful words he wrote.
Our trilogy begins with an excerpt from Act 2, Scene 7, from As You Like It. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man, in his time, plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At the first, the infant, mewing and puking in the nurse's arms, and then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail, unwillingly, to school. And then the lover, sighing like furnace, with a woeful ballad main to his mistress's eyebrow. Then a soldier, full of strange oaths, bearded like the pard, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in fair round belly, with good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances, and so he plays his part. The sixth age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloons, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side, his youthful hose well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice turning again toward childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. The last scene of all ends this strange, eventful history, his second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. On to Act 3, Scene 2, from Romeo and Juliet. When Juliet says, "Come, night, come, Romeo, come, thou day in night, for thou wilt lie upon the wings of night, whiter than new snow on a raven's back. Come, gentle night, come, loving, black-browned night, give me my Romeo, and when he shall die, take him, and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun." As some of you may recall, at the funeral mass for JFK, a young senator from Massachusetts stood before this congregation and the world and used this passage to describe what his brother meant to him and the nation when he said, "When he shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun." From Romeo and Juliet to Julius Caesar. As Caesar lies dead, stabbed by his contemporaries, Mark Antony kneels before him and in a rage shouts, "Pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth, that I am meek and gentle with these butchers." From then, he goes on to speak to the people of Rome. "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do live after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus had told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously had Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man, so are they all honorable men, come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He had brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When that the poor have cried, Caesar had wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. You all did see that on the leper call I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambitious? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure, he is an honorable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me.
My response, the only word I can think of is wow. Many of you recognize the voice of Steve Niscoda, who is one of our residents. Beautiful voice. You may have remembered him in the talent show. Thank you, Stephen. That was wonderful. Our announcements. The Harmony Singers will be